Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Like everybody says, well, depending on where you are, a very warm welcome to this webinar. My name is Rocky, and I head up the policy research function with the Financial Services Development Council. I understand that many of you may not be aware of who we are, so I have one simple slide to share with you about who we are. We were established back in 2013 by the HKSAR government. So our key mandates are three flows. One would be on policy research. The other will be on market development. Last but not the least is about human capital development. And this is going to explain to you why we are going to focus on the development of ESG investment and green and sustainable finance here in Hong Kong in these three areas too. As a matter of fact, even though Hong Kong is not a leader in terms of developing green and sustainable finance globally, we are a leader in this part of the world. As for the FSDC, we have been focusing very much on this particular issue since 2015, 2016. The very first paper that we have published on this matter was issued back in 2016, calling for awareness on green bond and other green finance instruments. Then in 2018, we turned our focus to ESG investment as a whole, and in 2020 we published another paper. This is one of those evergreen topic, if I may, and this is going to last, and that's why you're going to hear a lot more from FSDC about this topic. Enough about promotion. Now let's go to the substance. I would like to share with you about three major matters. The first being why we are, as a policy think tank or an advisor to the government, we are focusing on this particular matter. That's point number one. The other is, like how, and what we have heard from the industry in relation to such matters, and why this is going to be important, and what the industry will be doing. That's point number two. And last but not the least, bringing ourselves back to the topic of today's topic in relation to green building development. This is what I'm going to mention in the very last section. So a little bit about why we are doing this. This is very simple. We have seen that there's an influx of capital inflow into relevant assets, and these two charts really seem is showing you how the influx is affecting the investment sphere over the past 2 years. In 2018, the net inflow was around 5.4 billion, whereas in 2020, in 1 year alone, it reached 51 billion. So it has almost grown 10 times in just 2 years. Then, if you look at the number on the right-hand side, you can see that the scale of global ESG asset, and that is, well, if the left-hand side is flow concept, the right-hand side is the stock concept, meaning the aggregate, global ESG assets. And you can see that in over the past few years, these assets have grown exponentially. So, by 20% between 2 years, this is really, really something to watch out for. Then, on this slide, you can see that there are a lot of instruments that we can turn to or make reference to in relation to green and sustainable finance. But one thing that we often see is about green bond. Here we can see that you can tell from these two charts why I said Hong Kong was not a leader in this space, but then we can say that we are a leader, one of those leaders here in Asia. On the left-hand side, you can see that back in early 2017, much of the green bond issuance in terms of volume of issuance was really coming from Europe. Then the other major continent or major area that had a lot of green bond issuance was really from North America. On this slide, you can see that China has emerged as the number 4 leading green bond issuers in the world. And that is quite telling that why Asia Pacific region has emerged as the number two continent instead of the third one back in 2017. And Hong Kong being the gateway to mainland China, and like the springboard for Chinese investment going abroad, Hong Kong has like benefited a lot from this trend. So that's a little bit about this slide. As a matter of fact, the issuance of green bond is only one metric whereby we can make reference to about the prominence of green issuance. All these, all these investors, from asset owners such as CPPIB, the pension fund board in Canada, to other asset managers and wealth managers, they are all telling us that this is a very the support is staunch from the investment community. Now let's take a look at what Hong Kong has done so far. We feel that Hong Kong has the natural advantage of being the place to be for ESG investment. And such ecosystem is one of the key reasons. We have the presence of and prominence of asset owners, asset managers, invested companies. Then we have very good regulations in relation to ESG and green ESG reporting and green standards. And we also have the academia as well as the civil society and organization alike that are present here, that are steering the development of such area here in Hong Kong. So we do possess the strength. And this explains why we have made it a key development area for the years beyond. The chief executive has said so. The financial secretary in Hong Kong has followed with some action plan. In fact, just before we joined this webinar, the the Green and Sustainable Finance Cross-Agency Steering Group, which was established back in May 2020, so last year, has announced some more detailed roadmap just before the start of this webinar. So you can tell that the public sector is really putting some resources to their work. And besides the public sector, the other stakeholders such as universities, I was saying that like in Hong Kong, the green bond issuance in 2020 was a little bit disrupted comparing to 2019. That's in part due to the fact that issuers would not be able to travel very freely to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong being a hub connecting the dots from mainland China and the rest of the world, we faced a little bit of a bump. But then, like we feel that going forward, we have every confidence in our ability to bounce back. The number of funds the amount of fund raised by green buildings projects was actually at around 66. Altogether is accounting for around 20% of the total funds raised in the year. Not really impressive, but then it is there. So you can see that people are putting some money to developing green buildings or making buildings more green than gray. Now, what are these issuers? Of course, they are coming from the property developers. Why are people issuing green bonds? And even though on this slide you can see that the yield discount is actually relatively low, so it may not be too conducive to or attractive to investors. At the same time, cost is actually quite relatively higher comparing to regular bonds. So why are people still doing it? Because we think that investors and issuers alike believe that this is not only about doing making profits and but it's rather about investing in our future. I'm not going to go through this because my other speakers will be talking about standards and whatnot. Now, I'm going to highlight very quickly some things that are on top of or besides green bonds, and one of those would be about green loans. This is something that we have been seeing quite often, done by various, like real estate and real estate companies and conglomerates. So this is something that is quite a space to watch. The other is that, like a lot of the indices or in the financial field, indices is something that people make reference to as a benchmark. And as you may be aware, like even though a lot of companies or real estate sectors in various regions and countries are facing a little bit of difficulties, in part because of the COVID situation. According to MSCI, the Global Green Building Index has gone back to its peak, and this is telling you that even though like the general building or real estate sector may not be faring as good, buildings that are green tend to perform slightly better than the others. And with that, this is a 15-minute highlights of what we are seeing, and I hope I've tried to explain to you what we are observing here at SDC. Thank you very much.